listening to Radio DePaul. Awarded Best Station in the Nation 2020.
Hello, Radio DePaul. I am so happy to be sitting here again in the Radio DePaul studio. This is Roxy with the Soundtrack Revisited. Welcome back to the show. This is our 13th show. We left off last quarter at the end of November. We analyzed the soundtrack for the amazing Twilight movie, and it was great fun, and I had a great break. I hope everybody had a great break as well. Nice holiday season, whatever you ended up doing. If you went home, if you stayed in Chicago, if you traveled, either way, I hope everybody had a great time. I know I did. Had some fun. I went to New York City. I went back home to Paris. I was gone for a little under a month, and I came back to Chicago 10 days ago now. And it's been great, and I am, again, thrilled to be back here at Radio DePaul. New year, same old show. I hope we can keep having fun. I hope I can keep analyzing a bunch of fun soundtracks and a bunch of great movies. And we are starting out the season with a movie that I feel is still appropriate, even though it's not really Christmas anymore, but it's January and it was just Christmas not that long ago. So today we're going to be talking about the amazing soundtrack that was used in The Holdovers. The Holdovers is a movie that came out in 2023. You might have caught it, you might have not. It's a great film. It is directed by Alexander Payne, who you might know from a couple movies, namely Election, which is a movie that he made, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, with Reese Witherspoon, where she, runs for a student council or something. Anyways, a great director, American director. And The Holdovers is a movie that he directed and shot in 2022 and that premiered in 2023, in August 2023 at the Telluride Film Festival. And it was fairly successful. I mean, it has a budget of around $13 million, which in film terms is not that bad. I wouldn't go so far as to say cheap, but really not that bad. And it made, I think, around $45 million at the box office. So pretty good, pretty successful in my eyes. And in general, I remember when it came out, and even still every year during the holidays, it kind of gets a buzz again because it's just such a great Christmas movie. I think it has a very timeless quality to it, which people really appreciate, and myself included. And yeah, it's a movie that stars, namely, Paul Giamatti, who plays kind of the main character, and introduced Dominic Sessa to everybody. Dominic Sessa, a young actor who was actually scouted when they were doing like location scouts in Massachusetts. Dominic Sessa, young American, I think. I hope he's American. He might be Canadian. I'm not sure. I think he's American. And so this was his film debut, and it also stars Da'Vine Joy Randolph, who actually won an Oscar for her role in this movie. And it stars a few other cool people. But yeah, they're kind of the three core characters in this film. And it's a great, great movie. It's I'd argue it's one of those movies that you can call a comfort film, although it can be sad at times, but in a very kind of human way that feels comforting. It feels very raw and genuine about itself, which I think people are often craving in movies and in TV shows these days, and I think The Holdovers is really that. So yeah, I feel like I'm doing a little bit of a word vomit right now, but that's The Holdovers, and that's the movie we're going to be talking about today. Its soundtrack is pretty great. It's a mix of borrowed songs, a lot of them being from the 70s, because this movie is set in 1970 during the Vietnam War. So yeah, a lot of the soundtrack is some borrowed tracks. Not all of them are from the 70s, but a few are. And the original score is composed by Mark Orton, who is an American composer who I will talk about a little bit more later. So yeah, it's a mix of original score and borrowed songs, as well as some choir stuff that you hear the characters singing. So it's a nice mix of a lot of stuff. Today we're not going to be listening to all of it. Obviously, as usual, I have to pick and choose. So yeah, I picked out a few songs that I thought would give you a nice glimpse of what this movie is. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. I will be saying that multiple times because genuinely I think this movie is really worth watching. But I want to get us started with this first song that is called Silver Joy by this guy named Damien Jurado, and it came out in 2014 on his album called Brothers and Sisters of the Eternal Sun. And I want to say, because I didn't have time to rewatch the film like in the last few days to prepare for this. I watched it though this winter, like mid-December with my family. I think it's at the beginning of the movie. It's not the first song in the film, I want to say, but I think it's one of the first songs that we hear in the film. And although it's from 2014, I really like it because it has a very folksy feeling that kind of announces the vibe of the movie. But I won't say too much about it. I'll just play it for you guys, and we'll be right back after Silver Joy by Damien Jurado.
Let me sleep in the slumber of the morning. There's nowhere I need to be, and my dreams are still are calling. Lay your troubles on the ground. No need to worry about them now. Daylight shaking through the trees. Do not disturb me, let me be. And if you need a place to land, or come down when you are weary, no more clouds to put away in the slumber of the morning, and keep me with you on the ground. All of my worries behind me now. Daylight shaking through the trees. Do not disturb me, let me be. Let me sleep in the slumber of tomorrow. There's nowhere we need to be that will not be thereafter. Keep me with you on the ground. All of my worries behind me now. And be sure and wake me when eternity begins.
That was Silver Joy by Damien Jurado. I love this song, and I think it's, as I said before I played it, it's a great way to kind of get a feel for what this movie is gonna feel like. The Holdovers that we're talking about today, 2023 movie by Alexander Payne. So what is The Holdovers about? If you haven't seen it, Holdovers is about this group of kids that have to stay in school over the holidays, hence the name The Holdovers. And who is in charge of them but Paul Giamatti's character? He's this professor who clearly has some tenure in this school. It all takes place in this like prep, it seems to be like a prep school type place in Massachusetts, like typical, New England prep school, all these rich white boys going to school prepping for these, to get into Ivy Leagues and stuff like that. And so Paul Giamatti's character is unfortunately designated, to his dismay, as the chaperone for these kids who are going to have to stay over for the holidays for different reasons. Either their families aren't in the U.S. or their families just aren't coming to pick them up, or they're being punished by their parents, or different reasons. So I think they start out, I want to say, as a group of 6 kids, 5 or 6 kids. And as the movie goes on, the only one left is Dominic Sessa's character. And so a big part of the movie is this trio of Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, and Davine Joy Randolph staying in this school, the 3 of them, over the holidays. Staying in this huge prep school all alone. Everybody else has left for the holidays. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the vibe is in this movie. There's a real bittersweetness to it, and I think this little folk song that starts out the movie really gives you that feeling of there's a comfort to it, there's a familiarity to it, and that's something I like about folk music. There's a comfort and a familiarity to it, but there's always a tinge of nostalgia and melancholy to it, and this song perfectly encapsulates that, I feel. And every time I listen to it, I'm like, damn, I can't believe this is like from 2014. It sounds like Nick Drake or something. It sounds very timeless, I'd say. I could say timeless. It could be from the 70s, but it's timeless in that way. And I think The Holdovers is also very often qualified as a timeless movie. So this is a great pick. To start out this film. Yeah, so like I was saying, the movie takes place in this prep school. And a fun fact that I love about this film is that most, if not, I want to say all of it was shot on location. So what that means is that sometimes / very often, movies will not shoot every scene in a real place. So either that means that it's going to be shot in a studio, or with a virtual production setup, meaning with like a big volume, a big wall behind everything to make it look like it's somewhere else, or green screen, or any combination of those 3 things. Usually, most movies, especially the more budget you get, well, that's not necessarily true, but anyways, most movies will have at least a few scenes that are not actually shot at the place where you think it's being shot. So, for example, with this movie, with this prep school and everywhere else they go, it's like, oh, now that we're inside, we can just shoot this in studio. We don't have to go to an actual kitchen. We can just find a studio, like a sound stage that has like a kitchen, and make it look exactly how we want, so we don't have to actually mobilize this school and whatever. No, The Holdovers shoots everything where it actually is. So all the shots of in the kitchen, in the dining halls, in the infirmary, all of these places that have scenes happening, throughout the movie in this big prep school. And then the characters also go on a little road trip to Boston during the movie. They shot all of that on location as well. And I think that really, really adds to this feeling of familiarity and this feeling of comfort that this movie often brings to a lot of people. And this feeling of like, oh, this is real. Like I connect to this because it feels like something I know. Because we do. I mean, even though, we might have not all gone to a prep school, me included, I have not been to prep school. But like, I think shooting on location adds this immediate reality to something. I mean, it's a very basic thought to express, but for many reasons, you can sometimes decide as a production to not shoot everything on location. But for Alexander Payne and his team to really commit to that and be like, no, we're going to shoot everything on location, I think that's admirable. I think that's very cool. And I honestly think that that's a luxury that I wish all of us could benefit from. I mean, I know that as a film student myself, like we shoot a lot, on sound stages, because we're lucky enough at DePaul to have those at CineSpace Studios. But, there's nothing like shooting somewhere on location, shooting somewhere real. It just immediately looks a little better. For many reasons, I won't get into all the reasons why it's better or worse to work on, either one of those setups, so on location or in studio. There are pros and cons. There are many factors that come into play when you decide whether you're going to do one or the other. But to come back to why I was mentioning this, everything for the Holdovers is on location. And I think that, like I've said many times now, that helps the movie feel very tangible and real and comfy. I hope you guys know what I'm trying to express. I'm getting back into the groove of speaking into a radio microphone, so please excuse me if I sound a little all over the place. I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be organized. But the next song I want to play for us is actually a cue from the original score. That'll give me a chance to talk a little bit about Mark Orton, and the composer for this film, and talk a little bit about the score for this film. It is a song called Drive to Boston, because as I said, I should say cue. Those who have been listening to this show know what a cue is. A cue is what we call a song in a score, because it implies that it plays at a specific moment in the film because it was composed for that moment, hence why it is called a cue. So the cue that I'm going to play for you guys is called Drive to Boston, because the characters take a little road trip to Boston during the holidays once, because the young man is like, played by Damien, is like, I really want to go to Boston. We're bored out of our minds in this prep school. Let's just go somewhere. There's no one here to stop us from doing this, so let's just go and get out of this freaking place. So finally, Paul Giamatti's character, the professor, he caves and he's like, okay, let's go. So this is a cue called Drive to Boston, composed by Mark Orton for the Holdovers. That was Drive to Boston from the Holdovers official soundtrack, composed by Mark Orton. And this, as I said, this plays, during their road trip to Boston, the three of them. And I really like this little cue. It's very sweet, but also, again, it has that kind of nostalgia to it. Sounds pretty timeless as well. I love the accordion. I love the guitars. I love how organic it feels and how layered it is. And it's busy, but in a very controlled chaos type of thing. And it's very, I don't know. I really like this cue, and it sounds like road trip music. Am I right? So yeah, I love this one. And yeah, so Mark Orton composed the score for this. He had worked with Alexander Payne in the past on his movie Nebraska that came out in 2013 that was also nominated for a few Oscars, I think. It's a black and white film it's also kind of a road trip, actually, when I think about it. So yeah, I think Alexander Payne likes road trips. And yeah, so he composed the score for this one. He was also assisted, maybe that's not the right word, but there's also a music advisor in this film called Peter Krasinski, who was specifically the choir arranger and the organist in the Holdovers, because there are a few, namely at the very beginning of the movie, there's a choir of boys singing, from the prep school, and there's, someone playing the organ. So Peter Krasinski actually, I believe, stars in the Holdovers as well, but he was also the music advisor. So yeah, Mark Orton, Peter Krasinski in charge of the music for the original score, I should say. But yeah, there are way more cues, obviously, in the score of this. I chose Drive to Boston because I think it's one of my favorites. And I think it kind of exemplifies what this score sounds like. It sounds also a little folksy, like the song I had played right before, Silver Joy. But, it has when I first heard it, I was like, damn, this sounds like something I've heard before. And I think that is a little bit of the vibe of this film, too. It's like it's new and it feels refreshing, but it also feels so familiar, in a way that's like, damn, I feel like this is like a classic Christmas movie. And it's only been out for 2 years, so I don't even know if we can call it that yet, but it already feels that way. And I think the music also embodies that, of like, damn, this sounds like something I've heard before, but I haven't. And in a great way. I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, this sounds exactly like a bunch of other stuff. This is boring. Not at all. It's like, it's like seeing an old friend or feeling like you just saw someone you knew at the bus stop. You didn't say hi, but you were just like, oh, damn, I know you, and it's like a little moment of connection that can feel really nice despite it feeling special. Not despite, but it can feel special because of this kind of familiarity that you have with it. And I think the Holdovers and its score are all about that. Jesus, I really feel like I'm going on and on and on. I did, make an outline for this episode and choose the songs and everything, but I decided to kind of let myself decide on specific things I wanted to talk about. I have a loose outline for this episode today, but I was like, you know what? First day back, I want to kind of just let myself talk. Maybe that was a terrible idea. Maybe this is unlistenable. I hope it isn't, if anybody even is listening. But either way, this is a great time to plug that I do record these episodes. If you don't listen to them on the radio, or if you're like, damn, I need to go or whatever, I record them and I put them on my YouTube channel. So if you look up Soundtrack Revisited, you will find a playlist with all of the episodes of the show so far. As I said when we started, this is our 13th episode. So there are a few movies we've talked about, and yeah, I really want to kind of keep those, have my little archive of all the things I was able to kind of yap about throughout the episodes. So yeah, The Holdovers, great film, great score, Mark Orton, original score. Go check out the soundtrack album if you like the vibe of these songs that I'm playing. It's a great soundtrack album, very listenable, very chill, just as is the movie. Next song I'm going to play is a classic. You probably know this song if you're even a little into folk music and a little into 70s music. You probably most definitely know this song. But nonetheless, it is an amazing song by a fantastic artist that I have a special connection to for many reasons, but that I think a lot of people have a special connection to, and that's also what makes him special. Next song I'm going to play for you is The Wind by Cat Stevens, and we will be right back.
I listen to the wind of my soul. Where I'll end up, well, I think only God really knows. I've sat upon the setting sun, but never, 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 never
I never wanted water once. No, never, never, never. I listen to my words, but they fall far below. I let my music take me where my heart wants to go. I've swam upon the devil's lake, but never, 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 I'll never make the same mistake. No, never, never, never.
That was The Wind by Cat Stevens. Great song. Oh, I love just listening to that right then and there. I was just sitting in the studio with the headphones on, just dozing. This song plays when the characters have made it to Boston, and I'm not 100% sure on this because, again, I saw this like maybe 3 weeks ago, but I think it starts playing when they're on the ice skating rink in Boston, and it's just such a sweet little moment. In general, this movie is just filled with little moments of humanity and human connection that I think we all are so hungry for in this day and age. Not to sound like a boomer, but I think we're also hungry for moments of tenderness and connection between us as people. And yeah, this song, The Wind by Cat Stevens, starts playing when they're just hanging out together on the ice skating rink. And it's the character arcs in this movie are just great because, you know, the professor, played by Paul Giamatti, starts out being this very bitter guy who's just really unhappy with the situation. He doesn't want to have to chaperone these kids throughout the holidays, and he really doesn't want to be here. And, you know, you have this kid, played by Dominic Sessa, who's like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to stay in school over the holidays. And he has a lot of his own issues going on. Each character, you know, and then Davine Jo Randolph she's the head cook at the school, and she's staying over for her own reasons. So they all, warning spoilers, if you haven't seen it, warning spoilers. They all have their reasons for having kind of these personal issues that make it even harder for them to spend the holidays alone. So Paul Giamatti's character is alone in general. He's a guy who you kind of, as the movie goes along, you understand that he doesn't really have friends. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of family, or at least he doesn't have anyone to go back to. He has kind of like medical problems that make him like sweat a lot and that make him smell. I forget what they're called, but it makes him very self-conscious, and he's a deeply self-conscious person, but also he's kind of been like bittered by life. You find out that he was kicked out of like Harvard, I think it is, which is why he ended up coming back to this prep school he was actually a student at and ends up being a professor at, and he kind of feels, I mean, like many people would, but he feels like he's regressing. Although he's a professor, he has this, you know, dark reason for being there. Well, it's because he was kicked out of Harvard. So, and then the kid, Dominic Sessa's character, his dad has dementia, and he's in this home in Boston, in this nursing home, and his mom has remarried and is going on holiday with her new boyfriend, and that's why the kid is not on holiday with his family, because the mom is, I think, on her honeymoon with her new husband, and so she's like, sorry, you can't come. And then Davine Joy Randolph, the cook, her son was just killed in Vietnam. He went he signed up to the army so that he could get a scholarship, and he was drafted, and he died. So tragic story. And so she's alone for the holidays because her son has died, and she can't, you know, she doesn't want to spend it with anybody else. Thankfully for all of them, I feel like this movie is about them kind of getting closure respectively, or at least being able to not completely close themselves off and kind of connect with people despite these wounds that they're harboring. Is that a word? These wounds that they have. So Paul Giamatti's character tries to connect with this coworker and kind of goes out of his comfort zone, goes to a Christmas party. Dominic Sessa's character, when they're in Boston, it's actually, you find out that the whole reason he wanted to go to Boston is because his father is in this nursing home in Boston. So he's able to see his father. It's a very painful moment because the father doesn't necessarily recognize his son. And obviously you can imagine that's a very painful thing to go through, to see your parent and not have them recognize you. And then Devine Joy Randolph's character is able to, she connects with Dominic Sessa's character in a way that feels a little bit like motherly or whatever, but mostly she's able to just kind of not fully close herself in and kind of open up to people. And she ends up spending the holidays with her sister who lives right outside of Boston. So I think this is essentially a movie about, we all have our wounds and our problems, but something that can always help us is human connection, even if it feels very random at first, like this trio of 3 people who don't have much to do with each other than the fact that they are all in this school. But yeah, connecting with people can really be healing in many ways. And in a season like the holidays, that's very true. And not having people during the holidays is so difficult. So yeah, I love this film for what it says about humanity and about human connection, but also what it says about society. And, it's a commentary on prep schools and on kind of this idea of privilege and not realizing your privilege and taking advantage of it and kind of being forced to burst your bubble sometimes when you're confronted with other people's realities, and how that can be really important for you to grow as a person. And it's about, it's a great film because I think anybody can find something in it that they deeply resonate with because of these 3 widely different protagonists and what they all bring to the table and what they all are struggling with. So I think, there are very few people who I'd be like, oh, I don't think you would like this. I think anybody would kind of enjoy it, maybe for different reasons. Maybe some people would like it for the story. Some people would like it for the score, which was what we're playing today. Maybe some people would like it for the cinematography, because the cinematography is beautiful as well, by this Danish cinematographer called Egil Bride, I think. Egil Bride, Danish guy. Great cinematography. It looks vintage, kind of, but not in a pretentious way. The locations are pretty, for someone like me who loves Boston. I loved it for that, for getting a glimpse of Boston. Because fun fact, I also applied for grad school in Boston. Other than Chicago, I applied in Boston at Emerson College. And I visited, when I came to visit DePaul in 2023, I also visited Boston. But I love Boston. I've been there a few times and I have some family there. But yeah, I think The Holdovers is a movie that really has something for everyone. And if you have not seen it, please check it out. It's great. I don't know what streaming service it is on. I have my ways of seeing things that are not, let's say, recommended. So I don't always know where things are legally streaming, but I will tell you in a second. And I am looking and things are loading and it is streaming on, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. I think you can rent it on Apple and Amazon and all those things. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but go see it if it starts, because I think every year now they replay it in some cinemas, but obviously not anymore because I think the consensus now is that this holiday season is over. But yeah, it's a really great watch, and it's a great watch with family. Honestly, it's a great movie to be if you're over in the it's the holidays and you're with your family. It's like, oh, what movie can we watch that's gonna be kind of a crowd pleaser? Holdovers is great because it's not a crowd pleaser in the sense of it's boring and everyone's gonna like it enough to keep watching, but it's not interesting. No, it's a really good movie. But I think, like I just said, it has points of entry for a lot of different kinds of people. So it's a crowd pleaser in that way. So I really recommend it if you're if you're the person who's like, especially if you're a film student like me, it's like, what should we watch? I don't know. Holdovers is a great pick. So yeah, I have one more song to play for you guys before I wrap it up. And it is a song that, again, probably a lot of you know, but I still think it's worth listening to because it's by this great artist that put out a lot of stuff in the 70s and that is, in the past couple years, has really been having a renaissance. He's still alive, but his music from the 70s is having like a total, renaissance, total, like, it's blowing up again, which I love for him. His name is Labi Siffre. You probably know him. If you don't know him by name, you know his voice, you know his music. The Holdovers chooses to play his song Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying at the very end of the film, and it's a great needle drop, as is another needle drop, not in The Holdovers, but in another movie that came out this year of Labi Siffre's music, and that is Sentimental Value by Joachim Trier, which I cannot urge you enough to go see. But that movie also needle drops Labi Siffre's music. Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying, I feel like is also a big one of his. Not even I feel like, I know, is also a big hit for Labi Siffre. And I'm really happy for him kind of getting this resurgence in popularity because he's really talented and his voice is very touching and his lyrics are very earnest and something that I think, again, we're all craving, this like honesty and genuine feelings of like, okay, I'm just being a person and I'm not putting on anything. And I think Labi Siffre really embodies that too. And hence why it really works in The Holdovers, a movie about being a person and being human, whatever that may mean. So yeah, Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying by Labi Siffre, as heard in The Holdovers.
Crying never did nobody no good, no how. That's why I don't cry. That's why I don't cry. Laughing sometimes does somebody some good somehow. That's why I'm laughing now. That's why I'm laughing now. Loving never did me no good, no how, no how. That's why I can't love you now. That's why I can't love you now. Lying never did nobody no good, no how, no how. So why am I lying now? So why am I lying now? So why am I
Crying, Laughing, Lovin' Lyin' by Labi Siffre. Great song. Again, I was just sitting back in my chair in the studio, vibing, listening to the song. What a great artist he is, and what a great way to end this movie and this episode. I want to say thank you to Radio DePaul and to all of you for listening. And I'm so grateful to be here again and to have the opportunity to talk about music and to talk about films, the great two loves of my life. Be able to talk about them on this student-run radio, such a privilege and such a joy. And I can't wait to do it more all the way through 2026. This is my last year at DePaul, my last 2 quarters. So, got to make the most of it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. I wish you a great, wonderful week, and I will see you next Tuesday.
You're listening to Radio DePaul. Awarded Best Station in the Nation 2020.